house. If you're in the house, we're starting. It's all right. Prepares you to open your heart, to be a little more vulnerable, to be a little more loose in whatever space you're in, maybe for prayer, maybe for whatever's supposed to happen here this morning. And so you can't get the words wrong because there are no words. And so it's sort of like, I don't know, the first time I took a yoga class, they told me the whole point of yoga is that people would do all these postures and then they'd be ready to meditate. I was like, what? Are you kidding? There's more? You know? But that's a little bit like what the nigun is. So I invite you to just join us as we sing no words at all, but just begin to make sounds and begin to breathe. Hey, 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 hey. לפניך, רוח חי וקיים, רוח חי וקיים, שחזרת בי, בי נשמתי, חמלה רבה, חמלה רבה, אמונתך, your great faith in me. Your great faith in me. May I be grateful. May I be good. May I be good. Good Shabbos.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Okay, let's try it again. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Welcome to Mishkan. I'm Rabbi Lizzie Heidemann. You're going to meet everybody up here. This is our davening team, and part of our davening team today is Ezra. Many of you are here to celebrate his bar mitzvah. Who here is not here to celebrate Ezra's bar mitzvah, and you're like, what is happening? You may be here. You also may be here to celebrate an ufra, a pre-wedding shout out for Debbie and Benji. Or maybe you're just here because it is the Jewish day of rest, on which we gather to sing and pray and eat and learn and study and celebrate with one another. And so all of those things are going to happen here today. Okay, honest question, no shame in the answer. For how many people has it been a really long time, or today is the first time that you're at a Jewish Shabbat morning service? Yes. Woo! Welcome. Oh my gosh. It's like really an honor, actually, to be the place where you get to experience this for the first time. And so I want you to open up your book for a minute. Open it up to page 13. Little orientation. So most Jewish prayer books are going to have some Hebrew in them. And if you're lucky, they're going to have translation to the language that you actually speak, which I'm guessing in this room is probably mostly English. But if you're really lucky, you're going to have what's running down the left-hand side of the page on the left, which is transliteration for the Hebrew. And so that means that even if you cannot read a letter in the Hebrew language, you can actually participate with everything we sing in Hebrew because there's transliteration there. And also the blessing of masks, in this day and age of trying to find silver linings, is that for any insecurity you might feel about not doing Hebrew right, nobody will know. It's all behind us. So really, it's a great opportunity to play with it and actually, try. There is a holiday that starts tonight, Jewish holiday that starts tonight, that is one of the sort of undiscovered gems of the Jewish holiday cycle. I say undiscovered. I mean, it's not undiscovered. It's in the Torah. But because it very often falls after the school year is over and very often falls before, camp has started, many people are not aware that there is a holiday called Shavuot. And Shavuot is the celebration of the receiving of Torah on Sinai. So that begins tonight. That holiday starts tonight. And in this week's Torah portion that Ezra is going to be reading, we're going to be reading and learning a little bit later, the words begin by saying, in the desert of Sinai, ... all this stuff happened. But because we're Jews and the way that we study Torah is we look at every single word and try to make meaning of every single word, so the sages, the rabbis, look at the location. Wait a second, in the desert of Sinai. Why specify desert? Why does it matter that Sinai was a desert and that Torah was given there? And so they have lots of different answers. But one of them is that in the desert is ownerless and open. Ownerless and open, hefker. And it says, one should make oneself like a desert, sort of open to receive anything that might happen. And that's the way that we learn Torah. That's the way that we come to learn truth, wisdom, anything, by making ourselves open. And so the truth is, especially for those of you for whom this is a first time or the first time in a while, you are the most open. And for people with a lot of experience, you've been coming to Shul for a long time, maybe you know all this stuff. So the challenge is actually to make yourself open like a desert and to sort of be open and playful in the way that, you see sand dunes and what do you want to do to a sand dune? You want to run up the dune. You want to, sort of play in that space. Today, we're in the energy of Shavuot, in the energy of standing at Sinai together, which the Torah says everyone did stand at Sinai to receive revelation. So in that spirit, I hope all of you will just be on this journey today, trying and experimenting and singing and celebrating and having a good time. It's Shabbat. Welcome. I invite you to turn off your phones if you haven't already, or to silence them, stick them in a bag, and to really, like the Reb Ram Dass says, be here now. And we're going to stand on actually, Ezra's parents are going to present him with his first talit. And if you stand near that mic, it'll pick you up. Okay. Yeah. You want to move?
So a few months ago, I brought Ezra here to a bar mitzvah to see what it was like. It's the pandemic. He hadn't been to one in years. I knew he didn't remember. And if you know Ezra, you know I was taking a real chance, because if we came here and he decided he didn't want to do it, we were going to have to cancel it, because Ezra doesn't do things he doesn't want to do. But when Ezra decides to do something, he does it with his whole heart. He does it with joy and with kindness and curiosity and love, and that's how he has approached this bar mitzvah. And and my dad is here because my dad always cried the most when he was happy, and that's how I'm feeling right now. And I love you. And we are presenting Ezra with the talis that was presented to Sandy at his bar mitzvah. We still have the case that was hand needle pointed by Sandy's grandma Gazella, and we present this to you on this special day.
For anybody else that might want to wear a talis, to actually try putting one on, we have some at the back. You can go grab one if you want. And Ezra is going to lead us in the blessing. And I actually want to invite everybody to stand, because the next thing we're doing is standing anyway. When you put on a talis, you stand. There you go. There you go. Do the flip.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav l'chitatef b'tzitzit.
Amen. Amen. All right. Mazel tov. Turn to 13. Ezra's going to lead us in some of these morning blessings. So you can join in the Hebrew, or as we read through them, we'll say the second half of the English. Go for it.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lasech v'ivina lavachin ben yom uvein laila.
Amen. You have given me understanding to see differences clearly as between day and night.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani b'tzalmo.
Amen. You have made me in your image with unlimited potential.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani ben chorim.
Amen. You have made me free with the ability to choose.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani Yisrael.
Amen. You have made me a Jew with an enriching heritage, a God wrestler.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ha'ivrim.
Amen. You open the eyes of the blind, providing sight and insight.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim.
Amen. You clothe the naked, providing shelter and boundaries.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim.
Amen. You liberate the bound, releasing us from our shackles. And we usually take a moment here with this particular blessing. You liberate the bound, but it literally means to make possible the impossible, or to untie the tied up. And so knowing that it's morning, we sometimes take a moment to sort of release tight muscles. If it helps to just take a little stretch up to the sides, to roll your head a little bit.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Zokef Kufufim.
Amen. You strengthen the bent, removing whatever pushes us down.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Ruach haaretz al hamayim.
Amen. You have made the world a secure place where nature is governed by law.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asali kol tzorki.
Amen. You provide me with skills and tools, enabling me to meet all my needs.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher haichin mitzadei gaver.
Amen. You guide my steps, helping me walk on my intended path.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Ozer Yisrael bigvura.
Amen. You gird me with courage and strength, enabling me to overcome all obstacles.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Ozer Yisrael b'tifara.
Amen. You crown me with dignity and glory, balancing strength with beauty.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hanotin leyayev koach.
Amen. You strengthen the weary, staying with us even when we are exhausted. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hama'avir sheina me'enai, u'tenuma me'afapai. You remove sleep from my eyes and confusion from my mind. I thankfully acknowledge you, Adonai, for the many gifts that you provide. We'll turn to page 29 and we can take a seat.
Ashrei,
Ashrei,
Yoshvei,
Yoshvei beitecha, od yehallelucha, od yehallelucha. Leolam bared, Adol Adonai u'yalaleod, Yalatoin chaker, Vor l'ador yishabach ma'asecha u'aleluatecha, Yagidu. Ashrei, Zecharav tucha yaviu, V'tzidchatcha yirameinu, Chanun v'rachum Adonai, Erech apayim u'dal chesed, Tov Adonai l'chol v'rachamav al kol ma'asav. Yoducha Adonai kol ma'asecha v'chasitecha yivarecha. Ashrei, Yoshvei beitecha. Somech Adonai l'chol hanoflim, v'zokeh l'kol hakufim. Adonai l'chol v'rachal v'chasid b'chol ma'asav. Harov Adonai l'chol korav v'kol asher. U'hu be'emet u'tzon yireav ya'aseh ve'et shivatam yishma v'yoshiyem. Shomer Adonai et kol ohabav ve'et kol harashayim yashmid. We turn to the bottom of 30. Tehillah. Yoshvei Veitecha Od Hallelujah Od Hallelujah. Turning to 33. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Yeah. We turn to 39. I noticed that there are a lot of people who maybe haven't had bar bat mitzvahs yet or are not at the age. And I just want you to know, you do not have to sit here politely. You can dance. Just so you know, you're allowed to get up, move in the aisles. There's a big space over there. Sometimes we don't have our official kids program running today, but when we do, we often have like a minion of children over there just dancing on the side. While the adults are doing our thing, the kids are doing their thing, and it's all good. And by the way, if you identify as a grown-up, you can also dance. So, yeah. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, who kind of came from the old country and came to America, and he looked around Jewish communities in the 50s, and he was like, why is everyone so polite? My God, back where I came from, people were like dancing and clapping, and nobody did anything at the same time, and everybody was late. What is this? Everybody's on time here? Everybody's so punctual and polite. What's happening to the Jewish people? So this is just to say, if you need permission to be a little looser, you have it. You have it. We're on 39. Hi, hi, עמך בית ישראל, לרינה יתפאר שמך מלכנו בכל דור ודור. שכן חובת כל היוצרים לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, להודות, להלל, לשבח, לפאר, לרומם, להדר, לברך, להלל ולקלס. כל דברי שירות ותשבחות דוד בן ישי עבדך משיחך. We stand on 40. יתברך, ישתבח שמך ליד מלכנו.
ישתבח שמך ליד מלכנו.
האל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים ובארץ. כי לך נעלה אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, שיר ושבחה, הלל וזמרה, וממשלה, נצח, גדולה, גבורה, תהילה ותפארת, קדושה ומלכות, ברכות והודאות מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני, אל מלך גדול ותשבחות, אל ההודאות, אדון הנפלאות, הבוחר בשירי זמרה, מלך אלוהי העולמים. Round 41. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברי חירותי והמליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. Together, יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה. בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן.
You can take a seat for a moment. Just a moment.
All right, all right.
Why not? Shabbat shalom, everyone. Welcome. Those who are just wandering in. It's so nice to see you. I'm so glad you're all here. I'm Rabbi Stephen. So as So as Rabbi Lizzie mentioned earlier, tonight we actually roll from, I'm a little hot here, roll from Shabbat into Shavuot, into this holiday where we celebrate the receiving of Torah, the receiving of this core document of the Jewish people at Mount Sinai in this desert, in this wilderness. And the rabbis tell us that this happened in community. The reason this happened in community is because each and every person who experienced revelation, because of who they were, because of their experiences, because of maybe even how tall they were, or how short they were, how old they were, how young they were, whether they were close to the mountain or far away, whether they were feeling celebration or joy, or they were carrying heartbreak and loss, whether they're part of the Jewish people or one of the many other peoples that accompanied the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt, they each experienced revelation in a different way. They each experienced this moment in a way that was unique to their experiences, unique to who they were as people. And that lacking any single one of those people, we actually wouldn't be able to understand Torah. We couldn't understand this tradition. We would not be able to understand the experience of God, the divine, that thing bigger than us, whatever you call it, whatever speaks to you. And from this lesson, we're taught about the sanctity, the value of each and every single human being. Right? That lacking one of us, we actually are missing part of the picture. And the same is true for this space, for this community. There's a lot of people here. I saw the hands raised earlier who've never been to a Jewish service. This is your first time in a long time. You might be sitting there thinking, I don't have a part to play in this space, but you do. Because you bring a unique experience, a unique understanding of what it means to create sacred community, to celebrate a couple about to get married, or somebody about to become bar mitzvah. Lacking any one of you, the space would be insufficient. So know that the role that you have to play here today is important. Even if you're feeling a little grumpy or a little tired or a little undercaffeinated, that's also important too in this space, because that's what it means to be human. But know that your participation, your presence, is not only important, but also necessary. So we're going to stand up together, we're going to face east, and we're going to enter Shacharit, the morning service, together.
repeat. Take a seat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvrei choshech, osei shalom uvrei et hakol.
Amen. We pick up on 48.
Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer hameorot.
Ezra's wearing a tallis for the first time during a prayer service, so the custom is for this next prayer to actually gather the four corners of the tzitzit together into one hand and hold them. And as we go through the words of this next prayer, see if you could count the number of times you hear the word ahava, or a variation on the word ahava, which is love. And so we're sort of entering the sequence now that is that leads into and out of the kind of 6-word affirmation of if there's maybe a central tenet of Jewish tradition or faith, it's the Shema. It's God is one. And what does that mean? God is one. Maybe it means everything's connected. Maybe it means we're all part of God, But in any case, there's just one. And the way that we get there is be'ahava, with love. So the prayer that we say going into the Shema is called ahava rabbah, abundant love. The prayer that we say coming out of the Shema is called v'ahavta, and you will love. So there is this powerful kind of virtuous cycle of holding and recognizing love, living with and trying to practice love everywhere at all times. And that, our tradition says, is actually how you come to live and know this central tenet of our faith, which is the oneness of all. So we're on 49. We hold our four corners together, be'ahava, with love. Ahava rabba avtanu, Adonai Eloheinu, chem lagedola v'tira, hamalta aleinu, Avinu Malkeinu, ba'avur avoteinu, shebatchu becha, shebatchu כי אל פועל ישועות אתה, ובנו בחרת מקולם בלשון, וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול סלע באמת, להודות לך ולייחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בעמו ישראל, באהבה.
Shema. Yisrael. Adonai. Eloheinu. Adonai. Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום בלבבך, ושיננתם לבבך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
Just want to pick up with redemption song. Return to.
We're on 57.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות
seated for like one more second? So in just a minute, Sarah and her mom Adrian are going to read a poem that Sarah's father wrote, which talks about the Amidah, which is sort of the Jewish moment to be alone with yourself and your concerns, but also everyone else's concerns. That the Amidah gives us things that we might personally want, but it also gives us things that we might not personally want, but we say them anyway because people in here might want them, and people out there might want them, and people in our people want them. And so we're alone with ourselves for the Amidah, but we're not alone because we're carrying everything that everyone else around us is carrying too, and we know that they're helping us carry it. And so even though the Amidah is largely silent, personal time, we start it together to remind us that we are not alone, that we are being held, that we are holding others. This is also a moment for us to recognize that, Sarah, your dad is here with us, so present through the words that we're going to hear, through the ways that Ezra lives out his spirit, and all of you are here to remember him. And so I'm going to invite everyone to stand for the Amidah, which will open with this poem, and then we'll go right into these blessings together, which will take us into you time, to be alone with your thoughts and your prayers, but not really alone.
They say we're supposed to be in a palace. So we bow and take certain steps as the prescribed supplication drops from our lips. But what do we really know of castles and kings? My kitchen faucet constantly leaks, and the kids' faces usually need cleaning. If a door opened to a real palace, I'd probably forget and carry in a load of groceries.
No, the door we stand in front of when the Amidah begins is silence. And when we open it and step through, we arrive in our hearts. Mine's not a fancy place. No jewels, no throne. Certainly not fit for a king. But in that small chamber, for just a few moments on Shabbat, God and I can roll up our sleeves, put some schnapps out on the table, sit down together, and finally talk. That's palace enough for me.
Going to face east. We turn to page 58. I invite you to take 3 steps back and 3 steps forward as we enter this palace that we're building together for the Amidah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor Ha'Norah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevii Gula Livnei V'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham U'Foked Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye Metim Atah Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye Metim Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofeh Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umidom Melach, Melech Memit Umechaye, Umasmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman Ata L'chayob Metim, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechaye HaMetim.
We're on 60. Nekadesh et shemcha b'olam kashem shemakdishim oto b'shmei marom kakatuv ha'nevi'echa v'karazeh el zeh v'yamar.
Nekadesh et shemcha b'olam keshem shemakdishim oto b'shmei marom kakatuv ha'nevi'echa v'karazeh el zeh v'yamar.
Kadosh, kadosh, kadosh,
Adonai tzvaot melech haaretz kevodo.
Rash gadol. אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול.
אז בקול רעש גדול, אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול, מנסים לא צרפים, לעומתם ברוך יאמרו, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. ממקומך מלכנו תופיע, ותמלוך עלינו כמחכים אנחנו לך, מתי בתמלוך בציון, בקרוב בימינו לעולם ועד תשכון. תתגדל ותקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך, לדור ודור נצח נצחים, ועינינו תראינו מלכותך, כדבר האמור בשערי זוזך, על ידי דוד משיח צדקך. ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קודשתך נקדיש, בשבחך אלוהינו בכל ירושלים ועד, כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. We take a moment for personal silent prayer. You can use the words on the pages of the Siddur, the words of your heart. When you're finished praying, you may be seated.
I'm on 73. Oh, say shalom bimroman. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'emru amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'meru. Amen. All right. Shabbos, everybody. Okay, so the way I like to sort of describe the difference between where we have just been and where we are going is it's a little bit of like coming out of right brain space and maybe entering a little bit more of left brain space. But what I mean by that is we've just been doing a lot of singing and maybe breathing and sort of like settling in and relaxing, letting your mind wander, not particularly logical, but just sort of enjoying being inside of the music and inside of just being present. We are going to, in a moment, transition up here. We're going to prepare for the Torah service. And Torah is a book. It looks like a scroll because way back when the Jewish people started writing things down, the height of technology was scrolls. And then at a certain point, even though the technology moved forward, we became very attached, actually, to the old-fashioned parchment, quill with ink
individual letters written by a human being, not a printing press, experience of being in dialogue with this ancient text. Maybe you're going to see it's an ancient scroll, and it's an ancient text, and part of what we do as modern people is actually wrestle with and try to make meaning of ancient words. And you're going to hear Ezra do an incredible personal sort of rendering of exactly that. So as we move in that direction, we're going to literally be moving things around up here. I want to invite you to say hello to somebody you did not come here with this morning. Introduce yourself to them. Welcome them, even if it's your first time here. Find out what brought them here this morning and how they're doing, where they're from, and we will bring you back together in just a few minutes. Great. Also. Great.
Make sure that my iPad is somewhere that I can use it.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm actually going to leave my Thomas in here. Yeah. I will be back.
going to stand, and Zella and Adrian and Andy are going to come up and help open the ark. And whenever the Torah is up and moving around, we also stand out of respect. And as the Torah moves around the room, as it will in a minute, you'll be invited to sort of reach out, whether with the edge of your talit or with your prayer book, and to actually kiss the book. You know, like touch the Torah, mwah, kiss. That's what Jews do with books. We kiss them. So as the Torah goes around in a moment, we're not like worshiping the book, but we're worshiping the experience of learning wisdom from it together. So we open the ark. The bottom of 77, Ezra will call out and we will respond.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
we can take a seat. And as you'll see in a moment, Ezra has a sort of unconventional and different approach to a Devar Torah, a word of Torah, but Devar, a word, it actually means thing or word. And so he's going to do a thing. He's going to do a thing that's going to be pretty cool, but do you want to say something about it before you do?
He's going to introduce it.
Yeah, exactly. That's now.
Hello, my name is Ezra Weiss, and this is my speech about the Torah portion. I will be reading from the first section of the fourth book of the Torah, which are both called Bamidbar. Parashat Bamidbar is all about the names of the 12 tribes of Israel and listing anyone who could bear arms. Adonai speaks to Moshe, telling him to set up the troops and when to march and the order to march. He also puts Aharon, the high priest, in charge of the Levites, who are in charge of keeping the tabernacle, or Mishkan, safe and working it. The next section is about the census. Moshe takes the census of all the clans. The men who are 1 month and up were sent to protect the tabernacle. Moshe, Aharon, and his sons camped in front of the tabernacle. Any outsiders were killed. I find it really important that a census was taken because then the Israelite people would know how much resources they would need to keep a sustainable community. God tells Moshe and Aharon to take a separate census of the Kohathites, and people from ages 30 to 50 were to perform tasks in the tent of meeting. Because I'm a person that loves music, I decided to interpret my Torah portion into music. The next paragraphs I'll say are what you should expect to hear in my song. The first thing that struck me while reading this Torah portion was all the names in the marching. In my mind, this section sounded like an upbeat, minor key, fighting-esque music. So I sat down at my piano and went crazy. I came up with something that I really think resembles that section. The next part was about the tabernacle, and there's just something about the word tabernacle that makes me want to switch to a major key for about 5 seconds. Then comes one of my favorite parts. You might recognize it from something familiar in Jewish melody, so listen carefully. And then comes the census. In my parsha, there's a line that states, take 5 shekels per head, take this by sanctuary weight, 20 gerahs to the shekel. I noticed the 5 shekels and immediately decided to add sets of 5 notes. The last part sounds kind of tense. It's when the Levites are covering everything with dolphin skin. What went through my brain at the time was, preparing a big tent is tense. I should make the music sound tense. And then I end the song. I'll now perform the song on a piano so all of you can listen to my sick beats.
Yasher Koach.
Yasher Koach. So we're going to go into our Torah reading now. If you have one of these kind of soft cover, dark red books, we are on page 779, Numbers chapter 3, verse 14. That was so cool.
Do. Like Devorah Shoshana. Devorah Shoshana bat. Yirmiyahu v'Miriam Baruch ben Yamin Avraham ben Harav Yehuda ve'Esther la'aliyah harishona. Come on in. Okay, switch. Here, did you already see where the Torah is being read from? Here, get in. Get in. And the tradition is, I know it's a lot of books, guys. We're the people of the book. It's not for nothing. If you want to do the back and forth with the people who are up here, so then pull out the hardcover one again, because it's on page 79. Or you could just sort of listen and affirm with a big amen at the end.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Vayedaber Adonai Moshe b'midbar Sinai le'mor pekod evnei Levi lebeit avotam lemishbechotam kol zachar miben chodesh umalat tivkedem vayivkod otam Moshe al pi Adonai kasher tziva Suva Vayu ele v'nei Levi bishmotam Gershon ukahat Merari ve'ele shmot b'nei Gershon lemishbechotam Livni v'Shim'i u'b'nei Kahat lemishbechotam Amram v'Yitzhar Chevron v'Uziel u'b'nei Merari lemishbechotam Achli u'Mushi Elehem Mishpechot HaLevi Leveit Avotam.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emet V'chayei Olam Nata B'tocheinu. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Let's cover the Torah for a moment. Shkoyach Gideon. What we just read, as Ezra explained, was part of the census taking of the Jewish people, the Israelites in the desert. That's why the book of Numbers is called the book of Numbers. It's because it begins with counting people, which, as you may know, as many of you may know, is considered bad luck
Jews consider counting people bad luck. And the reason is because in the Torah, the only time people are ever counted is before a war. You know, because like taking a census to figure out, as Ezra said, like who's going to be in the military, who's going to fight, who do we have, how many? The presumption being that at some point we'll count again and there will be fewer, right? And so it's bad luck to count. But the truth is you sometimes need to know how many people are going to be in the room. You know, in this room we have a fire code of 180. We regularly exceed it, but at least it's good to know. Oh no, it's going to be immortalized on YouTube. We never exceed the fire code in this room ever, ever. What I just said was a lie. Okay. Yeah. So the only thing that makes it okay, the tradition says when they read this, is that every person was counted with their face, with their eyes, with their name. Nobody was just a number. Everybody was a human being with an identity, with a story. And as the two of you prepare to enter into a life of commitment to one another, I can't think of a more beautiful way to think about what it means to be married to somebody. Is this person is not just another person on the street. They're not just a pretty face. They don't just look good on paper. They didn't just have a nice profile. But they also did have a nice enough profile to get you in person, to actually begin the process of coming to know a person as deeply as anybody can come to know a person, which the tradition says is actually the holiest way of showing up in the world and of having people count you, of having people notice you. So as you enter into this life of love, we all see you. And the truth is the two of you, Benji and Debbie specifically, have given that gift to so many people in our community as volunteers, as people who have taught, as people who have shown up, as people who have welcomed, as people who have stood at that door and welcomed people into the room. Many, many times when we've asked for volunteers, you have put up your hand and said, I'm here for it. May everyone take a page out of your book, and may everyone be blessed in the way that you have found blessing today. Mazel tov. Simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov, simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov, simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov. Yehelanu, yehelanu, yehelanu. Can't dance with all the chords, but
Yehelanu, yehelanu, ulecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, yehelanu, ulecho Yisrael. Yehelanu, yehelanu, ulecho Yisrael.
Mazel tov! Mazel tov! And you stay up here. Whoa! Come on now.
That's good luck. That's good luck.
It's a good thing you
You're
have
gonna
that
hang out
nice
with me.
cushion of soft, curly. Yeah. Good. The cleaning crew is now going to come and thank you. Thank you. Sure. For the second aliyah, we also, all of these aliyot, what's called an aliyah is to come up to the Torah, literally to ascend. And so it's considered a great honor. And we always reserve at least one aliyah for the members of the community. And so as we've talked about, part of this census is actually assigning jobs for the different clans and for the different tribes of people. And so that's what we're going to read about in this aliyah, what the Gershonite clan is tasked with doing. And so this is an aliyah for you, maybe, if you are in a place in life, maybe now, where you're thinking about what your role is in the world, like what your job is, not as defined by the family you came from or by your last name or by whatever you maybe thought was supposed to be your task, but actually in a period of reconsidering and stepping into maybe a different role in life, a different job, a different mission. And so this is an aliyah to honor that process, even if you're just sort of in the beginning twinklings of it. We also have Dan and JoJo representing, so you won't be alone. The aliyah hashniya, come on up. What are your Hebrew names?
We're
And
on
anybody
page-
else who fits that description, come on up.
We're on page 779,
Yeah,
chapter 3, verse
What are your Hebrew
21.
names? Hannah bat Sheva Daniel. All right, so come on in and see where the Torah is being read from. Here, you can see actually, since I'll show you where he's reading from. The idea is once everybody's up here, we're all on a team, the people blessing, the people reading, and so you got to know what's happening. Got to know where in the Torah it's happening from. All right,
Baruch Adonai Vorach.
Baruch Adonai Vorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Vorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah. Amen. Verse 21.
Gershon Mishpachat Halivni Mishpachat Hashimi Elehem Mishpachat Hagershuni Mishpachot Hagershuni Pekudehem b'mispar kol zachar mi ben chodesh v'mala pekudehem shivat alafim v'chamesh me'ot mishpachat hagershuni acharei hamishkan yachanu yama v'nasivet av legershuni Eliasaph ben Lael umishmeret b'nei Gershon Be'ohel Moed, Hamishkan Be'ha'ohel, Michsehu Umasach, Petach Ohel Moed, Be'kal Hechatzer, Bet Masach Petach Hechatzer, Asher Al Mishkan Be'al Mizbeach Saviv, Ve'et Meitarav Lechol Avodato.
Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah. Amen. Just to bless the two of you, you all hail from different parts of the country, but came to us from San Francisco. But regularly when we talk to you, you're in New Mexico or maybe Dubai or all over the planet. And it's such a rare treat to actually get to be in real time and space with you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. And that you really threw yourselves into community when you got here. You know, there's this idea, like I think people have sometimes when they show up at community where it's like, oh, everybody already knows everybody already has friends with everybody, there's no place for me here. And you all modeled what I, just wish everybody would do, which is like make a place for yourself. And you now, like, you came here today because you have people who you know in the community after not a lot of time. And that's a beautiful thing. So, Mazel Tov, and I'm so glad you're in Chicago for enough time to come to a service.
You're gonna come hang out with me. You two sit down now.
Ta'amod. We're going to call up Sandy's mom, Amy, who did not have her own bat mitzvah and didn't have her own Hebrew name. And so this is also a chance for us to call out a Hebrew name for her. There's a tradition in Judaism that your Hebrew name is associated with an angel who knows you, and that every time you do something good, your angel's like, woo, my person did it. So when we call you up here, it's a moment of recognizing you and also recognizing your family, and that you are part of creating this celebration today and giving heaven a little chance to dance on your behalf. So, Ta'amod, Chana bat Avram, La'aliyah Hashlishit.
Bless Adonai, source of all blessings.
We bless Adonai, source of all blessings at every moment, now and forever. Say that line again.
We bless Adonai, source of all blessings at every moment, now and forever. We bless you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who chose us among all peoples by giving us your Torah. We bless you, Adonai, giver of Torah.
Amen. We're on page 780, chapter 3, verse 27. Ooh.
Amen. Velikhat mishpachat ha'amrami umishpachat hayitzari umishpachat hachebroni umishpachat ha'azieli elehem mishpachot hakati b'mispar kol zachar miben chodesh v'mala shemonat alafim v'sheish me'ot shomrei mishmeret hakodesh mishpachot b'nei kechad yachanu Al Yerech HaMishkan Temana Unesivet Av Lemishpachot Hakati Elitzafan Ben Uziel Umishmartam Ha'aron V'Hashulchan V'Hamenorah V'Hamizbechot Uchlei HaKodesh Asher Yeshartu Vahem V'Hamasach V'Chol Avodato Unesi Nesiye Alevi Elazar Ben Aharon HaKohen Pikudat Shomrei Mishmeret HaKodesh Limrari Mishpachat HaMachli Umishpachat HaMushi Elehem Mishpachot Merari Ufkudehem b'mispar kol zachar mi ben chodesh v'amala she'eshet alafim umatayim Unesivet av lemishpachat Merari Tzuriel ben Avichayel al Yerech HaMishkan yachanu tzafona Ufkudat mishmeret b'nei Merari Karshei HaMishkan uvrecha ve'amuda ve'adanav v'chol kelav v'chol avodato Ve'amudei hechatzer saviv adnehem v'terotam umetrehem ve'hachonim lifnei hamishkan kedma lifnei ohel moed mizracha Moshe ve'aharon uvanav shomrim mishmartam hamikdash mishmeret hamikdash Lemishmeret b'nei Yisrael, v'hazar hakarev yumat, kol pikudei halevim, asher pakad Moshe ve'aharon, al pi Adonai, lemishbechotam, kol zachar mi ben chodesh, v'mala shanim, v'esrim aleph.
Bless you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who has drawn us close to serve you by giving us your Torah. We bless you, Adonai, giver of Torah.
Amen. Amen. Just to say, Amy, Chana, the section that we just read is full of names, and I always read it and think to myself, this is like a good place to appoint people for baby names that have really gone out of fashion. And so it's so appropriate that this is a time that we get to announce a Hebrew name for you in community. These names were a way of saying, like, this person does this and this person does this. And so I hope that you recognize this moment as one in which you have not only an identifier in the Jewish community, but a place and people who came after those people, and that you feel like your place in the Jewish community is here for you to take up. It's such a joy to get to celebrate this with you and to get to celebrate your family, and I hope you have many more occasions to use this Hebrew name happily.
Amen.
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 Okay.
All right. We're gonna pause Torah reading for a blessing for healing now. I know many in our community and beyond our community need a prayer. So this is a moment where actually if there's somebody who you are praying for, who you're thinking of, or knowing that there's a moment in the service where we actually just direct our hearts and our words and our music, not just to God, but actually to God in the service of healing the people who we love, believing that there's some even small shift that the universe makes when we say what we want and who we want it for, and put positive prayers out there. And so down at the bottom of page 82 on the right, in the hard book, there's a blessing. It's called the Misha Berach. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless the people you're thinking of. So I want to invite you to stand if there's anybody you're thinking of. And we'll pause in the middle of this blessing and actually just go around and say the names out loud of the people who need a prayer. And sometimes the custom is actually, if you know their Hebrew name, to say their Hebrew name. So you may hear some names that sound like the one that you just heard Amy receive, and you can also just say the name of the people you're thinking about. Here we go.
May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen.
Just start over here.
Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Refuah shlema, a complete healing of body and mind and spirit to everybody. Amen.
Sarah and Sandy, also known in Jewish community as Chava Tikva bat Avigail v'Shlomo, v'Shmuel Yitzchak ben Yaakov Meir v'Chana la'aliyah ha'revi'it.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'notein Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
We're on page 781, verse 40.
Vayomer Adonai El Moshe Pikod Kol Bechor Zachar Livnei Yisrael Miven Kodesh V'Ma'ala V'Sa Et Mispar Shemotam V'Lekachta Et Halevim Li Ani Adonai Tacha Kol Bechor Bivnei Yisrael Ve'et Behemat Haviim Tacha Kol Bechor Bevehemat B'nei Yisrael V'yivkod Moshe Ka'asher Tziva Adonai Oto Et Kol Bechor Bivnei Yisrael Vayahi Kol Bechor Zachar B'mispar Shemot Miven Kodesh V'Mala Livkudehem שניים ועשרים, 1,370 ומאתיים. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat haemet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Sarah and Sandy, you have done an incredible job raising this kid, obviously. But I will say, over the last year of getting to know your family, it's been so amazing to watch you both lead by example and give Ezra so much space to be himself and to let him flourish in this process and to show him a way that this is joyful and that you wrestle with this and you ask questions and you make things work, and also you leap in feet first, and that you're here standing up here with your family gathered around you, with Ezra already rocking it and about to read Torah. And I hope that you continue to watch Ezra show you all of the values that you are guiding him in so beautifully, and that this moment and many others feel like you're leading by example and it's working and it's good and it should be a blessing for you. Go stand with Rabbi Stephen. All right. You might be getting some candy again in the near future, and I want to give you some brief instructions for what to do with that candy before it becomes confusing and tempting. One, it's crinkly, but Ezra is reading Torah. And so like the crinkly temptation of the candy and the temptation to hear this amazing, amazing bar mitzvah read Torah, let's try to lean towards the Torah. Ezra is going to read Torah. He's going to say the blessings afterwards. I'm going to say nice things to him, and then I'm going to say Mazel Tov. And that Mazel Tov is your cue to gently toss the candy, right? We're not trying to take him out in his first moments of Jewish adulthood. We're just trying to shower him with sweetness. So when you hear Mazel Tov, go for the ark, and we'll sing Mazel Tov to him.
Also, orange is the best flavor.
And if you want to direct your oranges at Rabbi Stephen, he will be most pleased.
We are on page 782, verse 44.
Ya'amod, 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 Habachor Habar Mitzvah, Zeleg, Avram Zeleg, Ben Shmo Yitzchak V'chana Tikva, L'Aliyah Chamishit.
Boop it. Boop. And you kiss it.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Borach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torto. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Kach et havim tachat kol bechor bivnei Yisrael ve'et behemat havim tachat behemtam v'hayu li havim ani Adonai ve'et piduyet haslasha ve'shivim ve'hamatim ha'odvim al havim yibchor b'nei Yisrael. ולקחת 5 שקלים לגולגולת בשקל הקודש תיקח 20 גרה השקל ונתת הכסף לאהרון ולבניו פדויי העודפים בהם ויקח משה את כסף הפדיון מאת העודפים על פדויי הלוויים מאת בכור בני ישראל לקח את הכסף 65,300 בשקל הקודש ויתן משה את כסף הפדויים לאהרון ובניו על פי אדוני כאשר ציווה אדוני את משה.
You did it.
All right, you're almost done. Can you touch where you finished?
Oh, right.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chai olam natan b'tachenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. All right, Ezra, it's almost candy time. I know you've been looking forward to this. Ezra, you have done exactly what I hope a bar mitzvah will do, which is you have stepped fully into this tradition and made it your own. At every step that you have taken all of the things that you learned at Mensch Academy and all the things you learned from your family, and you've done them, and you've also done them your way. And you've put your musical spin on things, and you've taken your parsha and filtered it through the lens of Ezra and given us something incredible that is unlike any other Dvar Torah that I've heard, because it's yours. And I hope that your Jewish adulthood for you will feel like you can walk into any Jewish space and belong and know what's happening and have something to contribute. And also that you will know that we are so lucky to have you as a member of the Jewish people making your mark on things, because your mark is so special and so joyful, and it is going to change the world. And I cannot believe how blessed we are to be in this moment where you are blessing us with your presence, and that we get to shower you with the sweetness that you have brought into our lives this morning and every day. Mazel tov!
Mazel tov, simon tov, mazel tov, yeah, hey, lanu. Hey, lanu, hey, lanu. Yeah, hey, lanu, yeah, hey, lanu. Oh, l'kol Yisrael. Yeah, hey, lanu, yeah, hey, lanu. Oh, l'kol Yisrael. Yeah, hey, lanu, yeah, hey, lanu. Oh, l'kol
You know what? Invite Hagba and Golel up so they'll be up here for it, and then we'll go right into the next thing.
Mayer v'Ariella, Magdia v'Golelet. We're going to offer Ezra one final blessing as the Torah is raised, and I'm going to invite all of you to participate by stretching your hands out. The priestly blessing, the priests would offer with their hands kind of open like this, Star Trek style. The idea being that they would be channeling blessing through their fingers towards the people. So all of you, this is your chance to
hang on 1 second.
Think of all of the nice and good and special things that you have experienced in your life and send them towards Ezra. Ezra, you can just like put your hands open to catch them. And I'm going to say the words of the priestly blessing that we have been blessing people with for so long. And this is your chance to also send some good vibes Ezra's way. Yevarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'yasem lecha shalom. May you be blessed and have peace and goodness and light upon you. And now you can go stand with your family.
And we'll stay standing as the Torah is raised.
Vezot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei b'nei Yisrael.
Help him down, Yonai. Big help him, Moshe.
We're on page 90 in the hardcover. closing the ark. We're on 92. כי לקחתו נתתי לכם תורתי. אל תעזובו את חיים היא למחזיקים בה Yasher koach. Yeah.
We can take a seat. Take a seat. Yeah, and seriously, at any point, except maybe during Rabbi Dina's Grash, anybody who is a child or is a child at heart, there's still more candy on the floor here. Somebody needs to get it. Can you help get candy? Okay. Great. Okay. So before we're now rounding toward the closing of our service, we're going to hear some words of Torah from Rabbi Dina in a second, and then some closing prayers, including the prayer for our departed, the people who we love, who we have lost. And then we will break out bread and wine and dine together. And thank you to the Kaltman family and to the Weiss family for feeding us today, for sponsoring Kiddush. So for everybody who is here for the first time or who is, back after a long time, so we do this every other week on Saturday mornings, and we do Friday nights every other week. So we try to cover every week of the month, either with a Friday night or a Saturday morning. Sometimes we're only online. Sometimes we're only in person. Sometimes we're indoors. Sometimes we're outdoors. We have an office in Ravenswood, but we have services around the city in different places. And so, hence the name Mishkan, which in the Torah is the tabernacle, which I was so thrilled to hear from Ezra is a major key kind of thing. Major key kind of thing. Mishkan is a major key kind of thing. So just to say, we're now entering our summer membership cycle. It's a weird thing to say. The way that being a builder at Mishkan, being a member of the community works, is that every year, in July, we recommit. And so if you are already a builder in the community, you've probably already heard from us. And now is the time to recommit for the coming year. But if this is something you've maybe been thinking about, maybe I should join a community. Maybe I should join this community. Whether you live in Chicago or you don't, actually over 10% of our membership at this point doesn't live in Chicago. And so we invite you to be part of things in whatever way you're able. And we're so happy that you're here today in that way. We're celebrating Shavuot tonight at 10 p.m. We're kicking it off at 10 p.m. because Shavuot is an all-night Torah studying party. That's how we do it. And then in the morning, we will be at Wells Park for adult learning at 9:30 and for a family thing at 11, followed by a good old-fashioned picnic in the park. And anything else you're curious about, you can read more about on our website. But all right, I think I'll turn it over to you.
So we've talked a lot about this holiday of Shavuot. Let's talk about what it's really about. Also, you can still hear me, right? Great. So The soundtrack of my childhood went a little something like this. I love you, you love me, we're a happy family. Right? I apologize in advance for getting that stuck in your head. It's a big purple dinosaur with a green belly named Barney who would walk around singing that song, and every day I would sing that song. And now as an adult, I hear that song and I'm like, really, Barney? Really? That's it? I love you, you love me, we're a happy family? That's all it takes is just some love for peaceful coexistence, especially in something as complicated as a family? And like, okay, maybe that's a good way to teach young kids how to form secure attachments, but any of us who've done a little bit of adulting hear Barney's refrain and we groan, not just because we know we're going to be singing it for the next 48 hours, but because it doesn't really feel true. Family relationships are hard and messy and complicated, and they take choice and forgiveness and accountability. Love is a necessary but not sufficient thing to hold a family together. Whether that's your family of origin or your chosen family or a community that you don't call a family, but it is one because they're your community. The holiday of Shavuot, which is arguably the Jewish holiday on which we most celebrate community, gives us a chance to look for Jewish answers on what makes a family and a community work and stick together. Shavuot celebrates the giving of Torah at Mount Sinai, the moment we went from being a people to being the people, to being a community defined by shared values and moral commitments. There's 3 core texts that we read on Shavuot: the 10 Commandments, the beginning of the book of Ezekiel, and the book of Ruth. Side note, if you want to learn those texts, you should come tomorrow morning where each of the 3 rabbis will be teaching on one of those texts. And each one of them gives us a chance to examine this sort of Barney question of what else do we need besides love to make a community. Perhaps the most poignant one is the book of Ruth, so we're going to dive in there. The book of Ruth tells the story of a woman named Naomi who moves to the land of Moab with her husband and her 2 sons who marry local women, and then her husband dies, and then her 2 sons die. And Naomi is experiencing a famine in the land of Moab, and she says, I'm going to go home. And initially, her 2 daughter-in-laws start to come with her, and then she says to them, why are you coming with me? This doesn't make any sense. I have nothing to offer you. Go back to your homes. And one of them agrees. But the other one, Ruth, says, do not urge me to leave you, to turn back and to not follow you. For wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Ruth's words, this line, has become part of the ceremony of conversion for Judaism. The rabbis treat Ruth as the first Jew by choice, the model for choosing what it means to be part of this community. We don't ask people who want to become Jewish to say the Shema at the moment of their conversion, or the 10 Commandments, or even to affirm that they believe in God. We ask them to say, your people will be my people, and where you go, I will go. This intimate moment between Ruth and Naomi is not at all like what happened at Sinai at the moment that the Jewish people became the Jewish people. It's not like the moment of revelation that we supposedly remember at Shavuot. Revelation, as it's described in the Torah, was a big and flashy and loud thing where the mountain shook and there was fire and thunder and a shofar blast and the people were trembling and all of the Israelites were gathered at the foot of the mountain. And Jewish tradition holds that all Jewish souls that ever was, are, will be stood there together. Not just the Israelites who left Egypt, but their ancestors and their progeny and all of us and anyone who will ever throw their lot in with the Jewish people stood at Mount Sinai in this moment when everything shook and flashed and banged and it was overwhelming. And so one of the ways that we celebrate Shavuot is by throwing an all-night Torah party, like Rabbi Lizzie said, where we sort of study and we engage and we eat sweets and we finish with a sunrise chanting of the 10 Commandments. And it's like a fitting, we said yes anniversary. But reading the book of Ruth on Shavuot takes us to the next step in becoming the people of Israel. It reminds us the importance of choosing to be part of this community, this extended family, in every day, every moment. Where you go, I will go, and your people will be my people, Ruth says. I choose you. I choose this life. I throw my lot in with yours,
and therefore you throw your lot in with mine. That, more than any shofar-filled gathering, is revelation in action. That choice to stick together, to commit to family and belonging and peoplehood is the lesson of Shavuot. And I cannot help but think that this is precisely what we are missing in the United States right now. We were a nation born on a sense of shared purpose and moral commitments, but we have wandered so far from that shared destiny. We're a month out from I Love America Day, the sort of uniquely American, but not really uniquely American because it's exactly what we do on Shavuot of like flashes and bangs and a big party. But America right now feels so far from a sense of shared love or commitment. We are dying, literally dying, at the altar of individual freedom. The Washington Post did an analysis of school shootings and found that more than 311,000 students have been exposed to gun violence at school since the Columbine shooting. I'll say that again. In just over 2 decades, more than 311,000 students have been exposed to gun violence at school. At least 185 students and educators have been killed in their classrooms at their school. More than 369 have been injured. Less than 2 weeks ago, 19 fourth graders died in their classroom. And no one expects that sickening tragedy to change anything for us. Those children were loved. They had families. But that love was not enough to protect them from being murdered at school. How can we teach children to put their hands on their hearts and to say the Pledge of Allegiance to a country that will not protect them from dying at school? How can we possibly think that any freedom is worth more than a child dying in school, or a pregnant person dying who doesn't want to be pregnant, or a trans youth who doesn't believe that they can be loved? Again and again, we have watched our elected officials and our fellow citizens love themselves more than us, more than each other. We've watched politicians choose money over shared commitments. And we are scared, and we are sick, and we are literally dying because we've forgotten what that doofy dinosaur taught us about family. We don't need prayers or even love to change things. We need a new revelation. We need a reckoning that forces us to love each other as much as we love ourselves. We need a revelation that forces us towards a shared commitment of well-being, that teaches us to bow before one another's dignity and well-being and not just our own. We need to pledge ourselves to one another and not to a flag, to acknowledge that if you are afraid, I am afraid. And if I am sick, you are sick. And if you are in danger, I am in danger. And if this harms me, it harms you. And if this protects you, it protects me too. The only way out of this hellscape is to treat community as more sacred than any individual right that we might want to hold. It's not easy to sacrifice individual rights for the sake of community. I'm not saying it is. That's why we celebrate it. That's why Shavuot gives us revelation, both through the moment of ecstasy at Sinai and through the I choose you, your people are my people, and I go where you go. These two texts teach us that building community takes both shared experiences and moral commitments. And Ruth's story ends in personal revelation, personal redemption for her and for Naomi. Ruth ends up married to a kind and wealthy family member. They have a son together who becomes the ancestor of King David. And Naomi, who once lost her whole family, is surrounded by her community as she holds this child to her chest and is told, "You are redeemed, Naomi." She is redeemed from her suffering and loss because Ruth made a commitment to something bigger than herself. Ruth did not know that her sacrifice to follow her mother-in-law would lead to this triumphant end. But we know that we could not be here if Ruth hadn't done that. We know that Ruth and Naomi could never have achieved a personal redemption, and we as a people could never have achieved communal revelation without starting from a place of mutual commitment. A few weeks ago, I quoted a teaching from the Talmud that I want to repeat again. A potential Jew by choice went to Hillel, the sage, and said, "Teach me the Torah while I stand on one foot." And Hillel looked back at him and he said, "That which is hateful to you, do not do unto someone else. The rest is commentary. Go learn it and go do it." I'll see you at Sinai tonight.
Stand for Alinu.
We're going to stand for a few closing prayers.
We turn to 108. We turn and face east.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם 109, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים מבעל, ועל הארץ מתחת, אין עוד. Bottom of 110.
Kaddish Yatom, Mourners Kaddish, is an opportunity to remember the people who have come before us. We're remembering today Sid Lieberman, Gisela Weiss, Zoltan Weiss, May Annixton, Stanley Karatz, Ruth Lieberman, Sam Lieberman, Eleanor Bass, and Herbert Bass. And we'll hear the names of everybody else that people are holding in this room. Especially holding Abra with a lot of love. Yehi zichronam livracha. May all of their memories be blessings. We're on page 111.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah.
Amen.
Ve'alma tivrach rutei ve'amlichmachutei v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael bagala uvizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam ulamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmei dekudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata tamiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom v'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. All our memories be blessings. We're going to now sort of shift gears. Again, we went from right brain to left brain. Now we're going to gastrointestinal system. So I'll invite people to stand. We're going to bless wine, bless bread, and bring our service to a close. Thank you to everybody who was part of it, to Russ and Ina and one other person who was a greeter, and Andy, and Gideon and Eli, and Sarah and Ezra who read Torah, and all of you for being here this morning. We're on page 113. Oh wait, we were going to do a Don Olam, because you and all your friends really love that one. All right, we're on 112. Yeah, and any kid who's in the house, come up here and bop with Ezra to his sick beats. Okay, that's way too low. Let's do this. Yeah. Adon Olam Hashem Allah B'terem kol Yetzir Nivra Ve'en Nasa B'chafzo Melech Shemo Nikra Azay Melech Shemo Nikra Requested a different tune, and I totally pulled out the wrong tune. All right, so now everybody has to take out a trombone. It goes like this. Adon Olam Hashem. But we're going to start with the fourth verse. B'terem kol Yetzir Nivra Le'nasa B'chafzo kol Azay Melech Shemo Nikra Adon V'hu Eli V'chai Gali V'tzorchev li B'etzara Adon Olam V'hu Nisi U'manas li Manat Kosi B'yom Nekra Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem kol Yetzir Nivra Le'nasa B'chafzo kol Azay Melech
Shemo Nikra Adon
B'yado Avkid Ruchi V'tisha B'ayira Adon Olam
Ve'im Ruchi
Gebiati Adonai li velo ira Adon Olam. Shkoyach, we're going to stand as we bless wine. We're on 13. Shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam berit olam. B'nei Yisrael oti le'olam Adonai, et hashamayim ve'et haaretz v'shamru b'nei Yisrael. That's a better key. Et hashabat la'asot et hashabat le'dorotam berit olam. Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. Last time v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat le'dorotam berit olam.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hadafen.
Amen.
Or a gulp, it's all yours. Good. All right, kids, hands in towards the challah.
Towards the challah. And this will go around in a moment. And if the challah board gets passed to you, take a piece and then pass the board so that everybody can have some, and so that not one person has to stand there holding a challah board for 10 minutes.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. Okay, in an organized fashion, we're going to grab our pennies off the end. Perfect, precious.
Shabbat out.
All right, everyone is going to file out to get food, and then you'll come back in to eat.